was that? Never mind that. What was that?
Hi!
Who are you?
Barf!
Not in here, mister. This is a Mercedes.
Nah, that's my name. Barf!
Barf? What are you?
And here we go, BARFF Fantasy Football Podcast, Season 3, Episode 1 million. I'm Brian the Commish. Joining with me tonight in the studio, the owner born to run. Oh, Walt's here tonight. Walt, how are you?
Good, Brian. How you doing today?
Doing very well.
All right.
The phone lines are open. The chat lines are open. Let's see what we got
Outstanding.
as we discuss Week 12.
Week 12 already. Can you believe that?
It's insane. I can't.
It's just unbelievable. We've got to this point so quickly.
It was, and a week of great BARFF games.
Oh, yeah.
We had some set up for some Monday Night Heartache,
Yep.
and there were some that came right down to the wire, which is
Oh,
always
yeah.
fun.
I get to witness firsthand some of the heartbreak in my house.
It was great to see so many people here last week in the studio. Guests and owners, and so thanks to everyone, including our special calling guest, Big Don.
Big Don was great.
Added a lot of insight.
Yeah, sure did.
And so we're looking for more. Anyone that wants to jump in tonight, please feel free to call my cell and get on the show. And also again on YouTube, the chat is open. So let's talk about Week 12 action in BARFF. What game do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, we'll talk about my game. Believe it or not, I'm not bitter about it, which is usually, that's not usually the case.
If this had been a little closer, like this is a shootout of like epic proportions. This is we're talking about Boston Beans taking on Born to Run. Boston Beans wins 169 to 148. That is quite a shootout. It just looks like it went back and forth early, and then the Beans were pulling away. What were you thinking?
Well, so I was watching the game. I forgot who of my team, Walker, I guess. I was up like 3 points with the final 5 minutes of the Raiders game. And then Josh Jacobs just took over.
He just exploded.
It was unbelievable.
Yes.
And it was like, and you know what? Hey, it was a great game between the two of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I scored 148 points. I am not going to complain whatsoever.
No, that's a good.
Exactly.
I
mean, but Jacobs 48 points,
48
just
points.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, you're not overcoming that.
Yeah, and then the Dolphins, I think at one time had like 50 points until they let the Texans score some garbage touchdowns like that. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, it was good. It was a hard-fought victory by Tony and the Beans. I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
And I especially know now because I've done the Bracketology, of course, is I'm in the playoffs. And whether I finish 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, what do I care?
Yeah, 7 is in. We'll talk about Bracketology a little bit.
Yep.
Next episode will be all Bracketology. But this game, 48 points from Josh Jacobs. Do you think that there will be a reversal? This is a common theme on the show, so I might as well just keep harping on it until we're done. We saw Tua finally get the start. Let's Go Beans is on the chat, and I agree. The high score of the week. That's true. I did not mention that 169.
What's new?
Score. And but Tua starts, and Jalen Hurts does better than he does. And so do we go back to Jalen Hurts?
I mean, I think it'll be matchup dependent in my mind. Maybe the Beans owner will weigh in on this, but I think he's got two top 5 type quarterbacks, so it's a nice problem to have, and I think I know if I was in his shoes, it'd probably be matchup dependent.
Yeah, I agree. It's a nice problem to have, absolutely. And I hope he sticks with Tua. That's not anything I'm rooting against the Beans. He put up 169 points, so he can keep him in there. He's doing fine.
I mean, I would think it'd be gratifying if Tua's at the helm to win some of those playoff games, right? I mean, he's got his jersey. I mean,
to get the crown while Tua is in there, I don't know.
Come on.
If you can have anything better for
exactly.
the Beans, I don't know what it is.
That's icing on the cake right there.
All right, where do you want to go next?
So let's talk about the dumpster fire against the Moppers.
The Moppers, yep. This is a 133 to 99 easy victory for the Moppers. And when they needed it the most. This was a really gotta have for both teams, and the Whopper Moppers took it, putting themselves into that 5-win point with 2 left. What did you see in this game?
Hey, I give Dumpster Fire credit. They fought to the bitter end. And again, I just think with the injuries they had, I mean, DeAndre Swift, he even though he's come back, you can't even count on him. Who knows what he's
Right.
going to do?
They picked the right Detroit running back this week.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
by 1 point, but they picked the right one.
But again, you got Latavius Murray in there, your lineup. I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
I know he's trying to piece it together.
Yeah.
But then, the Moppers, of course, they started getting healthy. Of course, we can talk about that because I just saw Christian McCaffrey showing up with a knee issue. So that might
was
be
the risk when you took
Yep.
Christian McCaffrey and San Francisco took that risk on him. So
But I mean, he got, St. Brown was back. He had Schultz now is healthy. He got 19.
yeah,
So yeah, the Moppers, we've said it. They're a good team when they're healthy.
that's a good team. When St. Brown went off, that's a Thanksgiving Day. Like that percentage stayed high for winning.
Yep.
It just didn't drop. That was the difference right there.
But I don't know how you feel. I mean, Cowboy fan, obviously. Dak Prescott, though, I still worry about him.
Yeah, I worry about him too.
Yeah. So I think that might be for the Moppers going forward. That still could be their Achilles heel.
This combination of Dak and Dalton Schultz, when Dalton Schultz has a good night, Dak, of course, throwing the ball also has a good night. But when Schultz doesn't have a good game, it seems like Prescott comes right down.
Totally agree.
And
So
you would think with Lamb and Gallup and people like that wouldn't be the case, but it is.
yeah, no, it is. So I think that's probably, if I were the Whoppers, that'd be probably my biggest concern going to the playoffs.
It's weighing in for the last game. It's matchup dependent for
Yep,
sure.
look
for
at that.
Joe. So that's good. That's good agreement.
Maybe you should buy a,
Hurts jersey.
Hurts jersey, exactly. Or hey, one front and back, so he can wear both at the same time, right? That might not be too shabby.
If he wins the title, I may make that shirt. That's pretty good. So Whopper Moppers at 5-7, dropping Dumpster Fire to 4-8. Dumpster Fire is not mathematically out of it, but this was you wanted to be the 5-win team.
Yeah. I
coming out of
mean,
this
to
game.
me, I looked at everything. If you don't have 5 wins, you're pretty much you're done.
It's hard.
I don't even know what it would take.
Yeah, we'll talk about next week in a couple minutes. But there is a path, but it's a hard path.
Yeah,
it's
it's gotta
hard
be.
fought path. All right, who are we looking at next?
So I think one of the bigger wins of the week was the rifle and no lineup. So let's talk about that one.
This was my shootout of the week. Springfield Rifle taking on no lineup needed and getting that 132 to 123 win at a time when they needed it. They secured that 6th win with 2 weeks to go. This was a great win, and early on, I sent a text out about Derrick Henry. And for those that didn't understand what I was talking about, if you didn't look at the replays or reviews from last week, Henry had a 75-yard catch and grab.
I know.
And he fumbled on the 1
yard.
and gave the touchdown to somebody else.
My
he
guy,
gets a
Treylon Burks.
So he gets a -1, a -1 for the fumble, and he gives up the 6 points. All on one play.
I know.
That's hard.
And then he didn't do anything, rushing wise.
yeah.
So that was a. But yet, in spite of that, Josh Allen looked like Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones has been turning it on, and now Tyler Lockett too. Even in my mind, out of the blue as well. So,
I agree. Solid up and down the line.
Yep.
He's just, he's got that receiver rotation that it seems like someone is giving him something every week. Thielen was the Thielen on the bench this week. Debo didn't do all that great. He was on the bench, but then Juju was in the lineup with 6. That's hard to pick between those players.
Yep.
Sometimes you just got to do guesswork.
But the one that and again, being a Cowboy fan, the Zeke Elliott having the day over Pollard.
I know. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it was so weird to
Yeah.
me. So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, Christian's got a good team.
Yep.
He's got Marquise Brown coming back. He's got Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, he scored 70 bench points and he scored 123.
That's right.
He's fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Sitting up
There's
there.
no worry, no need for concern.
Sitting up there, you guys with the rarefied air up there, that's fine. You guys are fine. You lose by 9 points. You're fine.
Right, exactly.
So Rifle picked up a much-needed win. They're in the 5th spot when there are many teams that are going to be fighting for that 6th spot. So that's exactly where I would love to be right now. Good for them.
All right, let's look at Huey Lewis in the news because
Concern.
a lot of concern there.
Yeah, Huey Lewis in the news drops to 5-7, losing a 117-97 game to the Knuckleheads. Knuckleheads move all the way up to 4-8. They're on life support if there is even a beat in the heart. Mathematically alive, but Huey Lewis was in a position to really move into that 6th win where they wanted to be, and the lights have been out a little bit for Huey lately, and I'm not sure I'm not sure that with these inconsistent performances and these injuries that there's a coming back. From
Yeah, I chalk it up to 2. I mean, it seems like the news hasn't recovered from the Cooper Cup going out.
Yeah, it's hard to
and then I think the inconsistency of Alvin Kamara, who had that spurt, we're like, okay.
Yep.
And now he's back to like 5, 6. It's just not good. And, you're not
what you expect from that.
You don't want that this time of year.
Your RB1 is essentially a risky flex.
Exactly.
It's hard, and there's not a lot of relief on this bench. Antonio Gibson hasn't been getting work. Gus Edwards is always hurt or in a timeshare. Lamar Jackson carries the ball 12 times a game. That kills the running backs. So it's definitely a concern for Huey moving forward. Clearly they're in the 5-win still has that shot for that 6th spot. They got to find a way to turn the power on them.
Yeah, when we get, like you said, to next week's, I think for the news, they might, with the point total, need to kind of run the table, is my opinion.
They might need to.
So it's going to be tough. They certainly have an uphill battle, for sure.
Sox fan 7687, welcome back to the show. Tago via Hertzler shirt, which that will be the name on the back of whatever shirt.
I love that.
If the Beans win the title,
that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I wonder if one of those currently exists. All right, so we let's go to
last game.
Yeah,
which
game.
Was a lot of bitterness.
Boy, oh boy. Yep, this was the Civil War game. We hyped it up last week. Worst team ever taking on Sody Pantloads. Both teams wanting to get that coveted 6th win heading into the final weeks of the season. Worst team ever gets it, 116-109, and they now move to 6-6, which is good enough for 4th place. And Sody Pant drops down to 5-7, which locks up the number 6 spot for now. But that is certainly risky. And we are joined on the line by the owner of Worst Team Ever, picking up that coveted 6th win. Tyler's on the line. Tyler, how are you tonight?
Hey, how we doing?
We're doing very well. We're doing very well. We were just brought up your game, Civil War game against Sody Pantloads, 116-109. Tell us your feelings on the game this week.
Well, I'm glad my timing, my call was well timed here. It always feels good to beat the Pantloads. I believe that puts me 2-0 on them this season. For a guy that likes to talk a lot of smack, he's not really showing up like you should. But felt good to get that win. Was a little more nervous than I probably should have been needing 12 points out of Jonathan Taylor because he hasn't exactly been that number 1, but it looks like he's back. And if he's back, that means Worst Team Ever's back. That marks 3 wins in a row for us. Watch out, baby. We're coming.
Wow, look at that.
It is. He's
3 in a row.
If you want to be hot, this is the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I totally agree that it's time for that. You start to reap some benefit after you've suffered so much pain with this Jonathan Taylor situation. Are you confident plugging that name into the lineup right now, Tyler?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
And it's not because I have no depth behind him. It's all confidence in Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor. I mean, that's clearly when we were doing the draft, was the player
that
everyone wanted
it's not
to
a bad horse to ride, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'd take my chances with him.
Yeah, and you got to figure that. I mean, look at this team up at the top. Joe Burrow, it looks like Cincinnati's starting to figure it out. Jonathan Taylor and Saquon, so he's in a rut.
Yeah, 14 points though.
Still 14 points. That's an off day for him. So
T. Higgins coming around, CD coming around.
T. Higgins is going to benefit from Joe Burrow shaking off whatever they got. They got line problems. So that's looking good. On the other side of the ball, you got Sody Pantloads. They were riding that hot pickup we've talked about in weeks past. It started with Dumpster Fire and Dameon Pierce. And teams have just figured out that, okay, we're going to stop Dameon Pierce because what else are the Titans?
I watched the game. I mean, it's horrendous watching that. Exactly. So that's going to be tough for the Pantloads. Now, the one thing they got going is a good amount of points. So they, in my mind, they can control their own destiny for the last 2 weeks. But there's a lot of holes.
Yeah.
You got Pierce. Devontae Smith, I mean, that's hotter, hit or miss on him. Yep. Cortland Sutton. So now he's got Damian Harris out. He's got Rondell Moore. Do you trust Elijah Mitchell's out?
Right.
So do you trust Christian Watson to plug in there? I don't know.
Well, I would think so because I'm going to say this about Sody, and I do this too. Like, I'm not saying that I don't respect the strategy, but this is the second week in a row that Sodi has picked up a player to stash him, in my opinion, to keep him away from people, and then not play him. And the player did well, and Sodi lost. This is twice. So that I've been watching on. The chat line is blowing up.
He's quoting, I think I heard that. He needs 12. I'm going to lose. Tyler, you want to react to that? I mean, I did hear that live, actually. Why were you that concerned?
It's just because Jonathan Taylor only put up 12 points in less than half of the games he's played this season. That's why I was concerned.
Well, he got like 5 in one drive. I mean,
well, yeah, after he got 1 rushing yard the first quarter. So, there was reason for concern. But it's like I said, Sodi Pantloads, they're washed up. They're done. They ain't doing anything this year. Time to pack it up and bring it back next year.
And so, again, we will talk about bracketology next week. We'll talk about next week's games. But if you're going to be in those marginal teams, like they have the 6th spot right now, and they're going to need a little bit of success in the last couple of weeks. But with their points for, they are in the driver's seat, as you said. And so that's where you want to be if you're down in that bottom tier.
Yeah, and I'll say this again. Pantloads finished 6th. Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just get in.
Exactly. But I will say this: Tyler's team has that feel of like mine last year. Kyle's year, the News, and the year before, and Kyle's. You get hot right at the. Towards the end, and you kind of keep rolling into the playoffs. So.
All those players that upset you for the first 8 weeks of the season, all of a sudden are your best friends heading into this this stretch.
I don't disagree.
And that's exactly what's happening here. Parting words, worst team ever, make it to the playoffs, and we're bringing home that championship.
Oh, we have a prediction. He's bringing it home.
And I'll counter-predict it because Born to Run's going back-to-back and is going to have 3 to get in rarefied air.
So worst team ever is playing Born to Run week 1 of the playoffs. We're beating you.
Okay.
Oh, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, people. But I love it.
I'll bring a box of Kleenex for the bout because there'll be a lot of crying.
But hot teams right now heading into these final weeks. Worst team ever with a 3-game winning streak, second only to Boston Beans with a 4-game streak heading into this time. These are when you want these teams to be hot. On the other end of the stick, Huey Lewis. That was their 4th loss of the straight loss.
That's right, exactly.
So that's rough. We're hoping that's over and that they turn it around for sure. Let's take a look at next week. So we've been talking about it. Next week is week 13. NFL week 13. Worst team ever is now off the line. It was great to hear from the owner of Worst Team Ever, Tyler. Let's look at next week where we have. This is what I like about next week, in terms of being a BARFF fan. I'm not only the commish, but I'm a BARFF fan. We have one of the elite games going on, and that would be no lineup needed taking on Boston Beans. These teams that are way up there with 9 wins taking on each other. That's going to be fun. That could be a championship preview. But then the rest of these games, by and large, are teams that need to beat each other.
Yep.
And so that makes this a lot of fun.
This is, if you look at the matchups this week, these are really good matchups to really shape what the final playoff picture is going to look like.
Yeah.
For sure. So I'm like you. I'm very excited about seeing how some of these games are going to work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Which game do you want to take a look at? Let's just talk about them. Let's make some predictions, have some fun with
Well, let's talk about the big game, the lineup needed Boston Beans, because I think...
That
like you said, this is going to be quite the preview in my mind.
I agree. So both of these teams are pulling in at 9-3. They're both guaranteed a playoff spot. They're jockeying for position, and it's a game like this that will get them that position. To me, this could be a game. Right now, it's prodigy to go like a ridiculous 137 and 135. Even ESPN is excited about this game with no lineup needed in Boston Beans. Could it come down to let's beat this dead horse even more? Could it come down to a choice at quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at the matchup, I feel it's kind of it's a tricky pick. Tua against Frisco, that's not a great matchup.
It's not great.
And I think Tennessee, I don't know. I think they could give Jalen Hurts a little trouble myself.
That's a good defense.
It is a good defense.
Everyone is underestimating that team.
And what I've seen is Philly seems vulnerable to the run.
Yeah.
So if you got Derrick Henry, you shorten the game. How many opportunities does Jalen Hurts have?
Exactly right.
Yeah, I think you might be dead on. That could end up being that choice could end up impacting the outcome of the game.
Yep, no pressure on the owner of the Beans. They seem to thrive on this pressure.
Hey, he's been making the right pick a lot. I'll give him that.
Yeah, right now Tua's sitting on the bench, but we'll see. We'll see what happens right now. The check marks are all over the place, both sides of the board. This is basically a pick 'em.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a pretty high-scoring affair. Eckler against Vegas. Holy cow.
Right.
I mean,
I'd love that.
Yeah, and then, of course, flip it. You got Jacobs against the Chargers, who's defensive, and the big one, Nick Chubb against Houston. So the Beans have a lot of good matchups, but then there's tough ones. You got the two Miami receivers. You got Tyreek on one side, and you got Waddle on the other side, both against Frisco, which is not an easy matchup.
The jealousy that I have when you have non-quarterbacks being projected over 20, and both of these teams have two each non-quarterbacks being projected to go over 20. Right? Am I screwing that up?
No. You got Hurts 24.
Yeah, two each.
And
that's
Holmes 27. I mean,
these are crazy
exactly.
projections. So good for them.
But I mean, Cincinnati's a tough matchup for Mahomes too. So if I'm a betting man, which I am. I'm going to say the Beans. I think the Beans are going to win. I just have the feeling the matchups I think are slightly better. And I just, Mahomes and Cincy, that's going to be a good game. But I don't know, Chubbs and Jacobs, that tandem.
Streak. If anyone's going to beat this streak that the Beans are on, though, it'll be no lineup needed. Yep. So I'm excited to see. Excited to see who's going to do what this week. I can't pick this game. Look at where I am. I got nothing to say. Let's start talking about these games that are going to impact. And I'd like to start with to go on to the next game being you against Whopper Moppers, because Whopper Moppers has been hot. They need a win, but boy, you are not who they want to see right now.
Well, I'm gonna, how many times you see almost every check be on one side of the board?
Yeah, boy, it's ugly right now.
And maybe I'll switch my defense, see if I can find one to get me the other green check.
That's awful.
I mean, and I'm not going to say, we all like to attribute, wow, that was great drafting, whatever, and I went a certain way. But I mean, the way this has panned out now, looking at this lineup, I mean, my one weakness, who knows what Deshaun Watson's going to do, right? He hasn't played in a long, long time.
Rolling those dice.
Exactly. Yep. But considering what I was putting out there before, I mean,
patchwork.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, now Harris is gone. Stevenson's the main guy. Walker's going to be offensive rookie of the year, probably.
Yep.
Godwin is shaking out the rust.
Yep.
He looks great. I mean, now I got Jamar Chase supposedly back in the lineup.
Yeah, I think he'll play this week.
I do too.
Justin Jefferson is just at another level right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look at it and I'm like you said, McCaffrey is dinged up. I mean, Pitt their D seems not horrible. So you got him against, Cordell Patterson against Pitt. New Orleans has Tampa Bay's number.
Yeah.
So if you look at those matchups, those aren't great.
They're not
for
great.
The Moppers.
Yeah, and it's frustrating if you have a player that came in talked about with like Cordero Patterson and he gets healthy and then they're just, I don't know what's happening in Atlanta. Nothing good.
Yep.
And then McCaffrey is gonna be that guy. He's been that guy for owners for the last 3 years.
Yep.
He's got the potential to give you 40 a week and he might not leave the bench.
Yeah. So
hopefully it works out. He's got Connor on the bye. Connor had a great week for him last week, but he's not available with these late season buys, which seems a little unfair.
I agree with that. That's the worst. Is having a buy at this time of the year.
Right.
It's terrible.
Right.
So I mean, the point differential is not great for the projections.
It's not.
So hey, I
this is why we play the game.
This is why we play the game, and again, it's nice not having any pressure. If I win, great. If I don't,
right. Yeah. You guys,
it doesn't.
You guys with your playoffs.
I got like a 2-week bye that I just don't really care about.
Right, don't even have to set a lineup.
Not even worry.
Two teams that are trending in opposite directions. We just talked about the streaks. One is good with a 3-game winning streak. One is having tough luck with a 4-game losing streak. Huey Lewis in the news taking on worst team ever. Right now, there's some lineups that need to get set. Worst team ever is carrying the projections. I think that can even out a little bit, but again, worst team ever sitting in 4th place with that coveted 6th win, and Huey really needs to get that 6th win. Do they get it this week?
Boy, I mean, it's unfortunately so worst team ever. Some of those matchups are tough. Taylor against the Cowboys, Barkley against Washington, Higgins against Kansas City. Indy, has got really good pass defense. So I think, maybe Dak might struggle a little. Who knows? But New Orleans, Brady has horrible games against New Orleans. It's just not been good. And you got Kamara against, I don't know what's wrong with him. Gibson's questionable. Now you're punching in, is Matt Ryan washed up?
He is washed up.
Right?
Yeah, he couldn't hit a screen pass last week.
Yeah.
It's just ugly.
So it's going to be tough it's hard for me with Dallas's rush to think Pittman is going to, pile up any meaningful amount of points.
He had a decent week last week, but he's turning into, he's the only receiver that's going to get play out of it.
Exactly. Now, I think Pickens and the Pittsburgh offense looks like they're coming alive a little to me. So
good matchup.
Yeah, there's good matchups. So maybe there's some hope there, but I don't know. It's another lot of green on one side. I think, the News definitely has their work cut out for them. I think worst team ever probably ends up pulling it out.
Yeah, worst team ever is rolling right now. The only weakness I see in this lineup is they've got a little bit of a tight end issue, but outside of that, the running backs right now look elite. Joe Burrow is starting to
Joe
find
Burrow.
his Joe Burrow,
Yep.
and that will make T. Higgins a better player. So this is a good team.
Yeah, it's a tough team to be facing. Palmer against Vegas too, not a bad matchup.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Rooting for Huey, they always seem to be able to pull something up, but maybe this year the mountain may be too high.
I don't know,
especially after Cup went out.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the bottom line. It's tough to recover when you lose someone.
It is,
but
that. I'll tell you, from my end of that trade, they gave up Fournette and Williams, and they're both out too.
Isn't it amazing how some of these trades just end up being inconsequential? Yeah, exactly.
Wash, yep. No one's playing for anybody.
Yep, exactly.
It's terrible.
That's crazy.
Terrible. So that's the two teams on opposite ends of the spectrum. Two teams that seem to be in the same part of the spectrum, both desperate for a win. One in better position, certainly. Sody Pantloads holding on to that sixth spot right now, taking on Dumpster Fire. Right now, the projection's a little bit close. It's early in the week, but this is win or you're probably not making the playoffs for these teams. Sody's in a good position with points for to recover from a loss, possibly, but
then they need help, right? If you do that,
Yep.
I think, like you said, you want to secure this win against an opponent that, in theory, you have a better team then.
Right.
Of course, it's fantasy football. Who knows? But
who knows? What scares me is, if you're looking for upset potential, the check marks being at the top. There may be more check marks down the bottom for Sody right now with these lineups, but those check marks at the top are heavy. Those are your high scoring players. And so if Mixon truly comes back this week, and Jamal Williams, they need to decide whether he's the guy in Detroit or not. I don't know. That's a tough lineup decision every week. But yeah, this could be, if there's upset potential, this could be an upset for sure.
I feel the same way. I like the Herbert. Herbert's starting to look more like Herbert.
Yeah.
So whatever that injury, that rib thing, I think he feels better. And the thing with Trevor Lawrence, he's a top 10 fantasy guy, but
frustrating.
So anytime you put him in the lineup, that introduces risk to securing a win.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's gonna be closer.
I do. This is my pick for a shootout of the week. I think it's going to be
I agree.
somewhere in the 120s, and someone's going to win by a point or two. So.
I think someone will be, texting late on a Sunday or Monday if it goes into that saying, I look forward to it.
That'll be a lot of fun. Knuckleheads take on the Springfield Rifle. Again, the Rifle can lose this game, but with their points for, they don't want to.
No, I agree.
It's time to win, get this seventh win, and get into the playoffs strong. Knuckleheads with a win can be mathematically alive if there's such thing as being alive in that condition. That's one of those where you want someone to pull the plug for you. But so right now, the projections have it tight. The check marks are high up top for the Rifle, which is always an encouraging sign, but who knows? I hate seeing a team with Josh Allen and Derrick Henry coming to town. So I don't know. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, I'm with you because, I mean, like I said, Philly looked vulnerable against the run. Derrick Henry, like, to have 2 off games in a row. I don't know. I don't know if I really see that. Aaron Jones has looked good. Who they got? Chicago, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I think,
That's a nice matchup.
That's a nice matchup, too. Lockett against the Rams.
Yep.
That might not be bad. So, again, I think it's going to be – you have a lot of guys that are questionable.
That's the
problem in my mind.
The Q team. I don't know. I got to change the name, but there's that. So these are the players that are plugged in now, but they might not be available.
Yeah.
And then down the bottom in the bench, there's 4 more Qs.
Well, and the worst part for you is DJ Moore showing life.
Yeah, now he's on a bad.
And now he's on a bye too,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my gosh, can you believe that?
DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get DJ Moore on a T-shirt for the end of the season. DJ Moore, and Cam Akers.
I know it's
gross.
it's amazing when you see all the people that hype up
I know.
ahead of these, and that's why you got to just pick who you want to pick.
Yeah,
who you like. Forget about the magazines.
Yeah. No more buying those things. That's over.
That's over.
People. You're not going to see one of those at a draft ever again. But yeah, so the rifle will pick up this win this week, and I believe there's no stopping them. They're in, so we're rooting for the rifle.
Yeah, they get that 7th win. That'll do it.
Yep. And so that's next week, and after these games are cleared, we're going to have, in my opinion, if things go the way that I think they're going to go, we're going to have 4 teams fighting it out for that 6th spot. I don't know that anyone walks away this week 100% cemented that they've got that 6th spot.
Yeah, the only way I see it is the Pantloads win and the Moppers and Huey both lose.
Yeah.
Because
and
of the point,
especially if the Pantloads win big.
Right.
Yeah.
So then the point differential might become too hard. Even though, the Moppers and Pantloads play the final week of the season. Yeah. So, right now they're not that far in points, are they? I don't think they are. 1-4-5-5. Yeah, it's not 1-4-1-2.
It's not
exactly
insurmountable.
Yeah, so if the Pantloads win, Whopper Moppers lose, but they, kind of keep that close, that differential, then they got next week a win and boom. What do we got here?
Sox fan 7687 jumps in. We were talking about
a tight
end issues, and they declined to make a tight end comment, which is very classy. Keep it classy, Sox fan 7687. Way to go!
No doubt about it. It's too bad Big Don didn't weigh in on that tight end. I bet you he'd had a lot to say about it.
Well, as it was stated as the show started, it's Don's world, and we're just living in it. So
at least the Sox can be washed out. What Steve ever can't because he's never been good.
Yeah,
wow,
that's a rough quote.
That's a rough quote.
That might be T-shirt worthy. We'll have to see how this goes.
Well, you got these storied franchises, both the News and the Pantloads having a tough year.
It is. It's hard to watch sometimes when you have teams that are just consistently in the playoffs. So I think I looked in that history, and these teams are.
Well, Kyle's season record is ridiculous,
and they're constantly in the playoffs.
Yeah,
playoff appearances, double digits.
But as I remind them, I mean, do you want to have a great regular season record?
Yeah,
or do you want trophies?
You don't. Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's the symbol of greatness.
I know. I mean, I had that 11-win season. That's great. But
13
doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
No.
Exactly.
You want this prize right here.
And that's why I want one more this year. The window is there, and to get that third, like I said, rarefied air.
It's like hosting Saturday Night Live for the 5th time.
I love that.
Exactly. Right. We're going to have to get jackets made.
I might start a club if I win it.
Yes, the 3-timers club.
I'll get Connor a jacket. And,
that'll be terrific.
That'll be it.
Oh, I love it. That's a great idea. Oh, goodness. All right, so next week is Bracketology. I'd love to have people in the studio next week. Anyone that hasn't been there, I'm looking at you, Huey Lewis in the News and the Springfield Rifle. And we need more callers. I know we had people traveling today, and this is a bit of a rough time.
Yeah, holiday, around the holidays, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I loved having everyone that could make it out last week make it, and that was a lot of fun.
Yep.
This is always more fun, the more participation. The chat was great this week.
Yep.
It's always one of my favorite. The chat and our text string on the weekends is always one of my favorite parts of doing this. So let's go. We've only got a few weeks. Let's talk depressing news. We have these last 2 weeks of the regular season and the playoffs are going to blaze by. This is going to be over like that.
Yeah, I know.
So,
it's terrible.
So behind the scenes, this whole studio was ripped down for the holidays. We hosted Thanksgiving, and to put it back together tonight was like great. Like it's because ripping it down is always like it's over. But then it's going to come down soon. So get in while you can. Let's take advantage of this thing that we have going on while we can. And have as much fun with it before the end of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
So call in, guys.
Yeah,
we want you.
Yeah, let's go. And that's the show for tonight. Walt.
All right.
Great week.
Yep, great week.
All right. Thanks to Tyler from Worst Team Ever for calling in tonight. And thanks for Sox Fan 87 and the Beans for jumping in on the chat. It's always much appreciated. And that is the show for
Good
the
luck,
night.
everyone.
Good luck to all. Take care, everyone.